How is everybody? Cool. So, wow, it is absolutely blazing up here. I've never had this. Like, I can't see shit. It's crazy. So I want to take you through a little process, and this may not be 20 minutes, it may be 7 minutes. We'll just see how it goes. But I want to offer up three kind of lenses for you guys to look through around the idea of curation. The topic's been thrown around and tossed around a lot. Paola Antonelli, the world-renowned curator at MoMA, is a friend from going to TED for several years. And one time I asked her over an ice cream cone, how do you curate for something as prominent and so recognized as MoMA? And she said, I edit the excellence of the world, and I put those things in front of the excellence in front of those people so they'll have changed behaviors and feelings. And so as a corporate curator, someone who gets asked to help companies think about how to grow, how to change, how to transform, it was only my responsibility at that point to kind of codify or organize for an executive who's overwhelmed with how to think through complex issues and complex things. You can't just say, go curate inspiration into your life. I wanted to give them some sort of framework. So what I want to offer you guys is 3 Ds, and the Ds are design, delight, and demand. Delight and design and demand are the 3 that kind of summarize a way to kind of access this idea of being an inspiration curator, someone who actually is more deliberate, more intentional, and more conscious of saying inspiration is part of my world. I don't want to be hopeful in a strategy around it, and I don't want to be just serendipitous, and I don't want to just hope that it happens like a lightning strike. I want to be a lot more intentional about it. And so let me give you 3 quick stories that kind of summarize this, but imagine yourself as an inspiration curator who says, I'm going to be more intentional around this, and let me talk you through this idea of design. And so few things in life are designed as much as a wedding. And so last week, I celebrated my 20th anniversary with my college sweetheart, Jill Marie LaMacchia, and it was a great, yeah. So she would love it. I was in New York for a dinner, and she was at home with my children, but it was great. It was really a lovely 20th anniversary. And she gave me permission because it was with cool people. I was curating, right? And so let me take you back to April 15th, 1994, and it was Cedarburg, Wisconsin, 158. At about 158, you have 100 Serbians, Stefanoviches, on one side of the room. You have 100 Italians, LaMacchias, on the other side of the room. The aunts are looking at the other aunts on this side and say, why did she wear the same dress as me? The Italians, Jill's family, is looking at my family and saying, why couldn't have Aunt Jill married a well-off Italian as opposed to a middle-class Serbian? And so all of these dynamics are at play. It's 1:58. Ave Maria is being played in the violin on the balcony from Jill's friend from high school, not very well. And it's just, it's a scratch, and it's the whole, and it's that wedding planner's here, and Mrs. LaMacchia is here, and everything is just, it's scripted and so perfectly about to be imperfect. And let me tell you why when you design for inspiration, you have to leave room, breathing room, for it to be the most authentic, truthful moment, because it was not feeling that way at all. It was feeling like a stilted, perfectly scripted, choreographed something from hell. And it wasn't what we wanted, because Jill and I genuinely believe in this real moment. And so it was the ethos of the room that was feeling this at some level, and it was my Uncle Mitch, who is the first-generation Serbian who came over on the boat, who jumped up at 1:58, and he said, hey, everybody, I'm Uncle Mitch. And we all went, whoa. And Jill, with the little sweeping dress from right back there, I could see from behind the vestibule, I went, and she went, and we had one of those moments, and Uncle Mitch stood in front of the room and said, hey, I'm Uncle Mitch, you know what, I'm sitting there. And he jumped up in front of the group right as Jill's about to come down the aisle. And he said, I'm sitting there, and I'm just, he's he's my favorite nephew. Andy, he's amazing, and he's great, and he's authentic, and he's genuine. And Jill, I met her a couple days ago, and it feels like they need a little different environment. So what I encourage all of us to do right now is get up and get to know each other, because, based on this whole Catholic ceremony thing, we're all going to be like family in 13 minutes. And so for 15 minutes, they stood and had a cocktail party, not even a cocktail party, but a party. It was gregarious high fives and hugs, and the aunts hugging each other with the shared dress, and them realizing that a kind of middle-class Serbian family wasn't so bad. And all the dynamics were at play for 15 minutes, and I came out from behind the thing, and I'm hugging and kissing people. And Jill, even in her dress, came out and spoiled the whole surprise and was hugging and kissing people. And for 15 minutes, we became human. And it was life, and it was authentic and real. And it wasn't that perfectly scripted ritual. right? That ritual, I'm sorry, the ceremony. The ceremony is the perfectly scripted thing that has no error, that has no deviance, has to be perfect. But the ritual is one that is half scripted and half left baked to chance. And it gives room and breathing room for the authentic moment. And that's exactly what happened that day. Uncle Mitch gave us a purposeful disruption inside of that design to make it a more truthful moment. So you design all you can do, a wedding day or otherwise, designing for inspiration in your life. But the real lesson here is allowing there to be room for the breathing room for the authenticity to seep out and make it an authentic and real, passionate human moment like Uncle Mitch did. And he had his tie up to here and a half-lit cigar in his mouth. And he looked like Archie Bunker, and he acts like Archie Bunker, but everybody realized that he made it the moment it needed to be because he purposely disrupted the narrative. And there it was 15 minutes later with everyone now sitting like this, all over and scattered together, not the ants together in the same dresses, but just next to that. And it was a beautiful moment. And Jill comes sweeping down the thing, and I am a highly emotional Serbian guy. I saw my dad cry every day. I do too. I'm kind of a softie. And Jill is not a softie. Jill is a bedrock, hard-charging Midwest girl, born and raised Cedar Big, Wisconsin. She chews rocks. She is fine as nails in terms of like, right? And I'm the kind of more feminine guy who's bawling and who has tears in his eyes and his little Oliver People glasses all fogged up and feeling just like a big mush. And Jill comes down the aisle and she looks at me down the aisle, and while I'm standing on the very edge about to have this beautiful moment, the guy is so excited, but he's gonna not feel the moment because he's crying through the whole thing. And Jill's looking at me with a shake of head like, really? Really? This is the guy I'm marrying? And she takes my arm and I hug Mr. Lamaki and I hug Jill, and we come up and I'm facing the priest, and he looks at me like, really? And I was like, and I can't get it together. And Jill looks at me with a nice little sneer, and she kind of gives me a little, Andy, yes, it's all gonna be okay because I'm not wearing underwear. And she says that to me in that moment. And why does she do that? To take that perfectly designed, scripted, perfect ceremony and make it more ritualistic and give it breathing and an authenticity and purposely disrupt me. So why? I would enjoy the moment. So it wouldn't just glide by me as an unauthentic moment that you didn't feel or touch or actually have an emotion for. I got to, because Jill purposely disrupted me for that moment. So in this inspiration by design, designing for it every day in big events like a wedding or otherwise, how are you designing for inspiration? How are you curating through design for inspiration? But most importantly, how are you allowing the breathing room for that serendipitous or authentic moment to find its way in to even bring more inspiration to the table? That's by design. By delight. And by delight's an interesting one. So this is the one that's the most natural, the most intuitive, the one that we kind of associate with this whole idea of inspiration, because it's the American Beauty with Kevin Spacey when that guy is filming the leaves and they're swirling from the garage, and the guy's doing the videography of just the swirling of the leaves in the wind. There are those moments we just capture, and they're just the ones that we have to take pause and smell the roses for. They're absolutely beautiful life just being presented to you and you saying, and saying, by that virtue of that inspiration, I am, in fact, delighted. And so I'm sitting at my local coffee shop in Richmond, Virginia, and it's where I get my skinny latte, and it's where I just sit and I journal, and I journal, and I journal, and I look around, and I use the whole inspiration of all the buzz and the baristas and the bad music they're playing and the hipsters that are on their bikes, and I kind of just soak it all in as inspiration. But never was I so knocked over the head with a beautiful piece of inspiration about a year ago or so, when I'm sitting in there, and every coffee shop and the granola little texture little community like that has the whole guitar needed, roommate needed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and there's postings all over the wall, and I look up and I see this one, and I stole it. And it says, well-traveled, free strips of paper. May be used for bookmarks, writing down his or her phone number, a healthy snack, litter, or even a place to put their bubble gum or boogers. And this is stuck on the wall amongst all the roommate needed and all the kind of I need guitar. And so I take it down. And on the back of it, you'll see in a very different size font, this is written in a very serious tone. When the people in the world will love one another, then the strong will not overpower the weak. The many will not oppress the few, and the wealthy will not mock the poor. And so I took it down, and in replacing it, I took a piece of paper and I wrote, "Hi, I'm the guy who stole your free strips of paper. If I can buy you a coffee or an expensive meal, please call," and I put my assistant's name and her phone number because I don't want a crazy person calling me. But I put that up there, and 4 different times did I put that up there, and I never got a response. And what I call this person is an anonymous hero. I love this person. Male, female, young, old, it doesn't matter. I love the fact that they were liberated and they had a feeling and they put it in the world in order for me to be delighted. Whether they were doing a serious term paper and they got just, you know what, I need a little irreverence in my life, or they're being really irreverent and they need a little intelligence in their life, but they marched down to the coffee shop and posted this anonymously and never responded to me. I love them. I want them to date my daughters. I want them to marry my daughters. I want to breeze by them on the sidewalk in Richmond, Virginia and feel some of their energy. I adore this person for their anonymous heroship. And we need to have more people dropping wisdom and beauty into the world so we, in fact, can be delighted. But most importantly, around this idea of inspiration by delight, I want you to open your eyes to these things and then be the one who opens your eyes to them, allows them to soak up, so you allow them to soak up into your soul, and then you just absorb yourself in thinking about this person. This person is real to me. They're not some anonymous person who just put it up there. They're an anonymous hero who was liberated and raised by the right family and raised by the right parents who felt comfortable and interesting and confident in doing something as interesting and passionate as this in the world. I adore this person. Inspiration by delight. So who are those people that are bringing it to the world? If you're not bringing enough delight to the world, offer your delight to the world so that others get it. But open your curatorial lenses to this delight idea and those lightning strike issues and times that just kind of happenstance upon you, but actually will change you forever as a result. This person changed me. So inspiration by design, inspiration by delight, and then inspiration by demand. And demand's an interesting one. So as a cable watcher who loves ESPN and just sitting in my like Herman Miller little lounge chair with my girls huddled around me as sort of 10-year-old twins, I'm like, and they're like, "Dad, slow down." I go, no. I'm filling my head with interesting thoughts because you can just like little things like I'm just collecting little things, tidbits, because I don't know where I'll be able to use that context and that construct later on somewhere for somebody because I have to. On demand, collect a lot of stuff and put it into my archive. I need to have an archive on demand that I can reach into at any point and pull from it. And so one of the things we do as a family is we go to New York City every year for 6 weeks. And we live in Nolita, the Lower East Side, essentially, in 4th and A in Alphabet City. And we go a five-story walk up, and we pack up our truck, and we drive up to New York, and we park our car, and we unload it, and we live. And we go to museums, and we go to bookshops, and we have ice cream, and we walk in the parks, and we kind of navigate our everyday by going to what bookshop is in what part of the 5 boroughs, and having the best ice cream there, and having a great lunch there. And that's what we do for 6 weeks. And why we do that is because we're filling our coffer so that we can draw on that inspiration at any point on demand in order to make us have the day or the feeling or the emotion that we need as a person. Filling our archive with things. And so on this particular August, it was early August, July, and then early into August, we are one day away from leaving. And it's 2 summers ago, and it was when Hurricane Sandy was imminently about to kind of attack the East Coast. And we live in Richmond, Virginia, not far from the coast. And so there we were in New York. It's the day before we're supposed to leave, and Jill had done everything with the girls. My 10 were that at point 8-year-old daughters, twins. They look like that. They're identical. And they were there, and they had done everything that Jill could do with them in terms of girly stuff, American Girl and tea parties, and they had done it all. So at this point, selfish daddy said, "You know what? It's my time. I want to go to the Yankees game with my little girls." And they've never been to a Major League game, but they've been to AAAs, but never a Major League game. So Jill, go online, get a couple tickets, and we're going to go see a Yankees game. Jill goes online. It's a rainy, crappy day because of the weather and coming in from Sandy. And she goes, "Are you sure you want to go?" "Yes, buy the tickets. I don't care what it costs. Do it. I gotta have that guy moment with my little daughters." Jill goes online, Yankee tickets, $105. $105? Yeah, get them. That's a lot. I know, get them. Gets them. They're at will call, go. We get in a cab, we drive out there. We get there, and it's terrible weather, as I noted, rain, mist, coming, going, on and off. It's the whole kind of imminent, like, when's it going to happen? They're playing the Oakland A's. It's a 2 o'clock start time. It is 6:05, and there are 4 innings into the game. 4 hours later, they're 4 hours later, they're 4 innings into the game. For those of you who don't know, that's a long baseball game. Weather coming, weather going, tarp coming on, tarp coming off, umbrellas coming down, going up, parkas, all of the different things, foul balls galore. I mean, a record in foul balls had to be that way that day, right? And so crazy 6 hours later, after Grace and Lottie had done and humored me for such a beautiful 4 hours in terms of putting their fingers in the beer and tasting Daddy's beer, playing thumb wars with the people in front and back of them to see if they could beat them, taking pictures and texting to Mom of all the interesting people in the row and asking Mom if they thought there was a tourist or a visitor, tourist or a local from New York in terms of who was in front of us. We had played every game under the sun. It's 6:05. Lottie, my youngest, by 2 seconds goes, Dad, you know, if we leave now, and by the way, the Yankees were down 7-2 at this point. If we leave now, and I know the Yankees are down, I know it hasn't been the best game of the weather, we've done the beer, and you know, if we leave now, we could get back to Soho, and we could go to the Soho Bond Street Sushi. If you haven't been, it's lovely. And if we walk into that back room, Dad, it's when all the sushi guys go, hey, and we'll have a green. It's where you journal on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, and we can get that one thing we really love without tuning in it. And Mom can get that beer she loves, and you can get that wine you love, and it'll be awesome because it's our last night. We got to go back to Richmond tomorrow because it's rainstorming, and we should hurry. And if we left, we could. And she just sold me beautifully. And so I said, you know, you're right. We should leave. And so I put up my fingers and intentionally put them out like this because my daughters are tiny like my daughter, like my wife. And so we're walking out, and I say, let's go. We pack up. We're walking out along the kind of the hallway around the edge. And as I look up, I see the sun coming through the clouds, and I see it hitting the field and mist coming up, and I see umbrellas coming down and parkas coming off. And all of this is happening amongst this 60,000 people who had fought for 4 hours through this, but something felt different. And even at that point, a Yankee from the Yankee dugout kind of went like, yeah. And he went down. No more thought about it. Get in the cab, go to Bond Street, do the Bond Street thing. Grace and Lottie go to bed. Jill's packing because we got to leave early in the morning. And I am laying on the couch watching ESPN, kind of like Sports Center, and Jill goes, it's midnight, Andy, and I'm really worried about getting home tomorrow. Why don't you go up to 5th and A, get our car, bring it back, and load the car now, and we'll leave as soon as we're done. I'm like, really? It's midnight. And I'm like chilling, and I've had a few beers, and this is all too, like, this doesn't feel right. And she gave me that look, and I was like, on my way, right? And so I was gone. And so I am cruising, and I'm walking up 4th Avenue, and I look into this hipster bar that I always walk by but never got to go in because the kids are jealous with me. And so I look into this hipster bar, and there's the TV on in the back, and it's the game, and it's after midnight. It's after 11, so the 11 o'clock news isn't on, and it's not ESPN because I'm an ESPN hound, and I know that, but it's ESPN Classic. And for those of you in the room that don't know what ESPN Classic is, it's a sports channel that plays sporting events that become instant classics because of their amazingness. So I went, and I creep into the bar, and I see this hipster sitting there in his Yankees lid, and he's like, dude, were you like, and he couldn't even talk. He was so excited. I was like, I was there. And he was, you were there? And I was like, yeah, I was there. Grace and Lottie, the 4th inning, when it was amazing. Dipped in, we like 7-2. We left in the 4th inning. He goes, you left in the 4th inning? I go, yeah, because we Bond Street. And he's looking at me like right through me like, you idiot old man, looking right through me. And I go, because, and now I'm getting in the car and we got to drive to Virginia and everything. And he just goes, do you know what happened? I go, I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened? No, I don't know what happened. The Yankees came back to win 19-7. Only because they hit 3 grand slams after you left. And if you pull up in Google the statistics on that, it's never happened in 200,000 prior Major League Baseball games. Never has that happened. I missed that shit. I walked right out on it. And so we're packed. We're driving down the New Jersey Turnpike the next morning at 7 a.m. Jill's reading Vogue. She fell asleep, so I got 3 girls sleeping in the car, and I'm just like, driving down the road. Jill is like, she's asleep. The girls are asleep. All of a sudden, the girls kind of like little sparkly little girly eyes in the back and little pajamas, cutie girls wake up, and as soon as they wake up, I spin around. It's like, if you guys would have been boys, I would have seen that. And I had that moment, and Jill is just all pissed, and for 6 hours, she won't touch my elbow on the armrest, and we have that thing because I walked out on it. I walked out on that amazing thing that was inspiration, and I felt it in my bones. So inspiration by design, by delight, and by demand. Be more conscious, more deliberate, more intentional, and be a curator of it, because it is life that makes up life, and inspiration's right at the core of that. So with that, I thank you guys for all of your attention and time. Peace.